Good morning. We're going to start our service today with joining our voices. You can join in with me singing. You can stay seated if you like. We're going to sing If Every Woman in the World on page 1026 in your teal hymnal, but also the words will be on the screen. If every woman in the world had her mind set on a freedom, if every woman in the world dreams a sweet dream of peace, if every woman in every nation, young or old, each generation, held her hands out in the name of love, there would be no more war. If every man in the world had his mind set on a freedom, if every man in the world dreams a sweet dream of peace, if every man of every nation, young or old, each generation, held his hands out in the name of love, there would be no more war. If every leader in the world shared a vision of freedom, if every leader in the world shared a sweet dream of peace, if every leader of every nation worked for justice and liberation, holding hands out in the name of love, there would be no more war. If every nation in the world set a true course for freedom, if every nation raised its children in a culture of peace, if all our sons and all our daughters reached a friendship across the waters, refusing to be enemies, there would be no more war. Thank you.
Good morning, First Unitarian. My name is Kimberly Urish. I serve as the chair of the Reproductive Justice Committee here at First Unitarian.
And my name is Stephanie Walton, and I co-chair the Climate Justice Committee here at First Unitarian.
Go ahead.
Okay. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whether you carry joy or sorrow in your heart this morning, you are welcome here. All people of goodwill are warmly invited to join us on the great journey of the mind, the heart, and the spirit. If this is your first time with us today, please let the offering basket pass you by. Your presence is gift enough. We hope you'll join us for coffee and conversation in the community room after the service. We'd love to get to know you and answer any questions you have. You can also visit the information table next to the exit from the community room. I also want to let you know that you are all invited to Justice Committee lunch today after the service upstairs in the chapel. Lunch is provided by the Reproductive Justice and Climate Justice Committees. And at that lunch, you'll get to learn about two ballot initiatives that the church is endorsing and working on here at the church. Coloradans for Protecting Reproductive Freedom and Safe and Healthy Colorado. And you had another update? I do. And just a reminder that next Saturday, on February 3rd, we are hosting a climate grief workshop. It will be here at First Unitarian from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Lunch will be provided, and we do still have some spots available. That will be capped at 20 people because it's a very interactive workshop. If you could RSVP by tomorrow at the end of the day, so we know how much lunch to order, we would really appreciate it. The email that you need to send that RSVP to is on the back of your order of service. It's climatejustice@fusden.org.
Mike also asked me to share another announcement that the 2024 Auction Committee is pleased to announce an award ceremony that's been added to the evening's festivities to enhance the biggest fundraiser of the year. The committee has created a Community Champion Award to honor outstanding local achievement. In keeping with the theme of this year's auction, Joining Hands for Justice, Dr. Rosemarie Allen, Associate Professor at Metropolitan State University, will be accepting this award. Dr. Allen is a champion for early childhood education and consults on culturally responsive practices, microaggressions, and facing personal bias and privilege. Please reserve April 27th for this special evening.
And finally, please remember to silence your cell phone and other electronic devices so that we can be fully present this morning. Welcome to worship. At this time, please take a moment to greet those around you.
Good morning. If you are new to FUSD or visiting this morning, the song we're going to sing is for you. We're so happy to see you. Also, though, I'd like to thank Jared Joseph, and I would like to thank Adam Revell filling in for both Brian and for Leah today. They're going to be helping lead the music today, so we're very happy to have them. Please join in singing our welcome song. We are many, we are one. The light of the world is within you. Sacred and worthy is your soul. A place has been made for you.
It brings me pleasure and some pride when I can introduce to you or bring into our sanctuary one of my colleagues in the ministry. And today, I have asked Pastor A.J. Blackwood, an ordained Unitarian Universalist minister, currently serving the Mountaintop, a Unitarian Universalist sanctuary space for Black, Indigenous, and people of color. He's also the facilitator of Unitarian Universalists for Racial Justice, a space for UUs to do the work of dismantling white supremacy and addressing racial bias in our communities. Reverend AJ was born in California in a primarily Latino neighborhood, Roman Catholic family. He has served both Catholic and Unitarian Universalist congregations. Please help me invite Reverend AJ to call us to worship today.
So, good morning. And first, I want to thank Reverend Mike for inviting me to be with you today. And second, I want to thank you, both Reverend Mike and as a community, for making all of this possible with the Mountaintop and UUs for Racial Justice. Your commitment over the years to racial justice in this community should be an inspiration to all UU congregations. You are doing the work. And that commitment is keeping our intention and goal of keeping racial justice at the forefront and understanding what we need to do to dismantle racism within our congregations. Reverend Mike kept UUs for Racial Justice running for years, for approximately 10 years before I came to Colorado. And none of that work that we do today would be without his assistance and the commitment that you've made. Thank you. So just to tell you a little bit about what the Mountaintop is and what UU for Racial Justice is. The Mountaintop is a space for our BIPOC, our Black, Indigenous, and people of color siblings to come and just be. We call it our sanctuary space. It is not a space for us to do racial justice work. And that's what often happens in our congregations. We then ask people to lead, right? We want people in marginalized spaces to lead, but then we also then put the onus on them to do the work. And so that's what the Mountaintop does, is it allows us to take that onus back. And then we have UUs for Racial Justice. UUs for Racial Justice is a space where we can do the work. So if you're Black, Indigenous, people of color, or if you're a white ally, you can do the work and not have to put the onus on someone to lead. But the Mountaintop is here to be your partner. And UUs for Racial Justice are here to be your partner. There's spaces where you can come and ask questions, where you can find out what a microaggression is, and where you can find out what your own identity is. I myself grew up in a Latino community, and it wasn't until my mid-30s that I started to understand my indigenousness. I started to understand what it meant to be Dene and not Navajo, right? I started to understand all of these things. The Mountaintop and UUs for Racial Justice started off to just serve the members of the community, the Denver metro community. We now serve 300 BIPOC people around the world, Canada, the UK, the Philippines, South America. This started from your commitment in this congregation. This started with 7 congregations in this area doing the work. So I want to thank you and applaud you for doing that work. So we have a couple spaces. We meet on Sunday evenings. If you're BIPOC, you're always welcome. If you're white identified, come and learn on the evenings that are designed for you. There's always caucus space in mixed spaces. And usually on the 4th Wednesday of the month, we had a scheduling conflict. So this Wednesday, we'll have a white caucus space to come and, again, ask questions. And I will always encourage you to know that I'm here to serve you. And so if there's a question where you're afraid to ask a BIPOC person, not that I'm the be-all and end-all, if there's a space that you want to ask a question about something maybe you were told was a microaggression or you don't really understand, I'm here. I'm here to do the work. So I want to thank you all. And again, thank you for making this space work through your financial contributions, through your commitments of time, through your commitments to learn, and all the work that you do and have done for the last 10 plus years in this community. So now let's get to business and why I'm really here. So let me invite you to worship. Welcome to our time of celebration this morning. Join us in this community of givers, lovers, and partners that center our lives on love at First Unitarian Society. Come into this spiritual home, whether you are here with us present in physically in person, or in spirit, wherever you are on Turtle Island or any other place in the world. Join us today in celebration and reflection with these words from Langston Hughes. I'm going to take these off so I'm in the space where I can't read or I can read. Getting old. Let America be America again. Let it be a dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain, seeking a home where he himself is free. America, was never America to me. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great soaring land of love, where never kings convene nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above. This never was America to me. Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowded with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is the air we breathe. There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free. Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet, and yet must be, the land where every man is free, the land that's mine, the poor man's, the Indians, Negroes, me. Who made America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow at the rein, must bring back our mighty dream again? Sure, call me any ugly name you choose. The steel of freedom does not stain. For those who live like leeches on the people's lives, we must take back our land again. America, oh yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me. And yet I swear this oath, America will be. Out of the rack and ruin of our gangster death, the rape and rot of graft and stealth and lies, we the people must redeem. The land, the mines, the plants, the rivers, the mountains, and endless plain. All in all of these stretch, all the stretch of these great green states, and make America again. Blessed be. Am I to light the chalice, or?
Good morning. I'm Erin Kenworthy, your Director of Religious Exploration, and this morning we're going to sort of read a book together. So if you're young or young at heart, come on up here with me. We're going to talk, as they're coming up, about a beloved children's author. One Theodore Geisel, also known as Dr. Seuss, beloved children's books written by Dr. Seuss. And I wanted to tell you, I was doing some research early this morning because I was awake, and I read a little bit more about Dr. Seuss, and I want to share something with you. Sometimes when we are young, we start to think of people or see people as all good or all bad, or what they do is all good or all bad. And I just want to lift up that people are so much more complicated and complex than all one thing or all another. Yeah? And thinking that somebody's all one thing or all the other sort of brings up this idea that they can't learn or they can't grow or they can't change. And that's not true. We grow over a lifetime and we learn over a lifetime. And I'm going to tell you, the New York Times, I'm going to share a little bit of what the New York Times told me this morning. Some aspects of Dr. Seuss's work have not aged well. Have you heard that? Yeah. From 1937 to 1991, he wrote more than 60 books and hundreds of political cartoons reflective of the times and attitudes present at the time of publishing. Have we changed since then? Yes. Some contain images that hold crude racial stereotypes, and in 2021, his estate discontinued the printing of 6 of his books because the content was seen as hurtful and wrong. We can reevaluate his legacy. There are parts of his work that we certainly can honor. And there are parts that we should not honor due to outdated and insensitive depictions of racial, ethnic, cultural, and gender differences. It's not a whole cancel, right? It's a nuanced awareness that some of the things that we do are great, and some of the things we do are not our best work or have changed with context, or we have learned more and we can simply do better. Yeah? So, I'm a huge fan of Dr. Seuss. I have great memories of reading his books, and some of them don't resonate with me anymore. That happens with anything that you go back, any media that you consume and go back and look at after a period of time. What I want to read to you today, instead of showing you the pictures, I'm going to have you in your mind imagine the pictures to this Dr. Seuss book. Some of you may be familiar, some of you might not. But as we think as a congregation about what it is we're going to work on and what we're going to do next, I felt like this was an appropriate read. Here we go. You ready? You can close your eyes and imagine the story. Congratulations, today is your day. You're off to great places. You're off and away. You have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. You're on your own, and you know what you know, and you are the guy who'll decide where to go. You'll look up and down streets, look them over with care, and for some you will say, I don't choose to go there. With your head full of brains and your shoes full of feet, you're too smart to go down any not-so-good street. And you may not find any you'll want to go down. In that case, of course, you'll head straight out of town. It's opener there in the wide open air. Out there, things can happen and frequently do to people as brainsy and footsy as you. And when things start to happen, don't worry, don't stew. You'll just go right along. You'll start happening too. Oh, the places you'll go. You'll be on your way. You'll be seeing great sights. You'll join the high flyers who soar to high heights. And you won't lag behind because you'll have the speed. You'll pass the whole gang, and you'll soon take the lead. Wherever you fly, you'll be the best. Wherever you go, you will top all the rest, except when you don't, because sometimes you won't. I'm sorry to say, but sadly it's true that bang-ups and hang-ups can happen to you. You can get all hung up in a prickly perch, and your gang will fly on. You'll be left in a lurch. You'll come down from the lurch with an unpleasant bump, and the chances are then that you'll be in a slump. And when you're in a slump, you're not in for much fun, because unslumping yourself is not easily done. You'll come to a place where the streets are not marked. Some windows are lighted, but mostly they're dark, a place you could sprain both your elbow and chin. Do you dare to stay out? Do you dare to go in? How much can you lose? How much can you win? If you go in, should you turn left or right and 3/4, or maybe not quite, or go back and sneak in from behind? Simple it's not, I'm afraid you will find, for a mind maker upper to make up their mind. You can get so confused that you'll start into race down long, wiggled roads at a breaknecking pace and grind on for miles across weirdish, wild space, headed, I fear, toward a most useless place, the waiting place. For people just waiting for a train to go, or a bus to come, or a plane to go, or the mail to come, or the rain to go, or the phone to ring, or the snow to snow, or waiting around for a yes or a no, or waiting for their hair to grow. Everyone is just waiting for the fish to bite, or waiting for wind to fly a kite, or waiting around for Friday night, or waiting perhaps for their Uncle Jake, or a pot to boil, or a better break, a string of pearls, or a pair of pants, or a wig with curls, or another chance. Everyone is just waiting. No, that's not for you. Somehow you'll escape all that waiting and staying. You'll find the bright places where boom bands are playing, with banner flip-flapping. Once more you'll ride high, ready for anything under the sky, ready because you're that kind of guy. Oh, the places you go. There is fun to be done, there are points to be scored, there are games to be won, and the magical things you can do with that ball will make you the winningest winner of all. Fame! You'll be famous as famous can be, with the whole wide world watching you win on TV or the internet. Except when they don't, because sometimes they won't. I'm afraid that sometimes you'll play lonely games too. Games you can't win because you'll play against you. All alone, whether you like it or not. Alone will be something you'll be quite a lot. And when you're alone, there's a very good chance that you'll meet things that scare you right out of your pants. There's some down the road between hither and yon that can scare you so much you won't want to go on. But on you will go, though the weather be foul. On you will go, though your enemies prowl. On you will go, though the hack and cracks howl. Onward up a many frightening creek, though your arms may get sore and your sneakers may leak. On and on you will hike, and I know you'll hike far and face up to your problems, whatever they are. You'll get mixed up, of course, as you already know. You'll get mixed up with many strange birds as you go. So be sure when you step with care and great tact, and remember that life's a great balancing act. Just never forget to be dexterous and deft, and never mix up your right foot with your left. And will you succeed? Yes, you will indeed. 98.75% guaranteed. Kid, you'll move mountains. So be your name, Buxbaum or Bixby or Bray or Mordecai Allen Van Allen O'Shea. You're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way. Please join me in singing our children out to their programming this morning.
I rarely go off script. It just gets me in trouble. And we could be here till next Tuesday. Good morning, everyone. My name is Patrick Horton. I am co-chair of the Racial Justice Project and a member of the Leadership Development Elected Committee here at FUSD. I'm not really very good at asking for money. However, like yourselves, I think we understand it takes money to pay the electric bills, meet the payroll, maintain this beautiful campus, along with myriad other costs. That's the reality of running any institution or organization: money. So we pass the plate. Khalil Gibran once said, "You give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give." And that is what we, as Unitarians, do. We give of ourselves, our time, our skills, our expertise, our hearts and minds. Do you have 4 extra hours a month? If so, consider volunteering here at FUSD as part of your generosity. I ask of you today, as we ask every Sunday, please give what you can, whether that be money or time or both. Visit the opportunity table in the back of the community room and find out all the different ways you can be involved in this, one of the finest communities in Denver. Let's keep it that way. And thank you.
Will you rise up when your comfort is in jeopardy? Will you resist justifying the complexity? Is simplicity convenient in your quest to pacify? When you look in the mirror, can you see your own disguise? Can we sing a song for you? Will music move your heart and mind? Will our song arrest you? American silence is a crime. We see the music move you as you lay your burden down. We feel the music grip you as your heart is soaked with sound. When the song is over, do you decide to clap aloud? Will your applause mean anything? The stitches on your mouth. Can we sing a song for you? Will music move your heart and mind? Will our song arrest you? American silence is a crime. We sing for the freedom, we fight for all it's worth. We sing for humanity so we can all walk this earth. We sing with the honor to let us sing another song. And we sing through the pain and we keep marching on. Can we sing a song for you? Will music move your heart and mind? Will our song arrest you? American silence, American silence, American silence is a crime. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you for your contributions, your generosity this morning. Thank you for your continued support of the larger ministry of this congregation. Thank you. I want to just take a moment and thank some other folks. We have, I hope you know, you may not know, but we have a climate, and thank you for your work. Those were the folks who are organizing the lunch launch after church today. You're all invited to that. I also want to take a moment and I want to thank our Peace in the Middle East group, which has been meeting every Sunday morning for the last couple of months. And last night they organized and we hosted a Prayer for Gaza interfaith service. And it was beautiful. About 150 people showed up. It is always an honor for me to welcome into our worship space members of the larger faith community, and we had representatives from the Palestinian community here last night, from the Sikh community here last night, from the Jewish community here last night, and many more. Basil Sabah, who is here with us right now, gave a beautiful and powerful homily on the moral imperative of an immediate ceasefire. And I also wanted to take a moment and let you know that on February 5th, a Monday, our Justice Israel-Palestine group is going to be starting a 5-week class seminar, and more information will be available about that. I plan to attend. I hope I'll see you there. I want to give a shout out to Leah Davis, who is home sick today. And thank again Adam for coming in on very short notice to fill in for Leah. I spoke with Eric Moon last night, and he reported that he asked Leah how she was feeling, and she said, "I'd give this 1 star." And I also want to hold up Randall Loeb this morning. And Randall, in case you don't know, is the gentleman who makes and serves our coffee almost every Sunday morning. And among many other things Randall does for our community, Randall turns 73 tomorrow. So. He's in the kitchen shaking his head right now, I'm sure of it. But when you have a moment, wish Randall a happy birthday. Please join me, if you would, in a time of meditation, reflection, or prayer. We who gather here in this time, in this precious, perilous time, we are not spectators. We are not passers-by. We are not outsiders looking in. Remember that the love that will sustain us and everything we value is part of a larger love that moves through all of creation, through all of the cosmos, and it moves through you. This love is a gift. It is given freely. It is yours. You can recognize this love and its presence, its movement in your body and in your soul by some very simple things. By the warmth that you feel when you share your soul with another. By the deep longing that you feel to create balance and peace in your world and beyond. You can recognize this love moving in you by a sense of gratitude that you cannot explain. By the sudden insistence of laughter. By the satisfaction to be found in giving of yourself to something higher, larger, more noble, more true. Tap into this love. Sink your roots down into this love. Use this love. Own this love. Use this love to speak the truth. Use this love to call evil by its name. Use this love to speak of comfort to the suffering and of rest to the overworked. Use this love to guide and embrace and call forth the beloved community. With such a gift as this, we can do no less. Amen. I was going to say I almost forgot, but I actually did forget, and Charlotte reminded me. A few words of introduction to the hymn we're about to sing. For most of us, "We Shall Overcome" is associated with the civil rights era of our history, but the origins of that hymn date to the early 20th century. It was a gospel hymn written by Charles Albert Tindley. The original title was "I'll Overcome Someday." Charles Tindley was born a free black in 1851, but his father had been an enslaved person, and the family memory of slavery was very present. Some of the people to sing this hymn in the early 1900s, the first people to sing this hymn in the early 1900s, were likely those who had lived as enslaved people or had been born to previously enslaved people. Today we know this hymn as "We Shall Overcome," and it was sung many times during the civil rights era, primarily in gatherings where it would be a mechanism to gather courage as a community to then go out and march into the streets in the very real danger of bodily harm. Today, we sing it in both solidarity and in the hope that it be true.
Please stand with me, if you are able, and sing "We Shall Overcome." We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We will live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall live in peace someday. We shall walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart,
I have a question for you, and I have a story to tell. The story will set up the question. And you are warned in advance that neither the story nor the question is going to tie up neatly in some final finished intellectual bow today. First Unitarian Denver has wrestled with race and racial justice going back to the 1950s. Members of this congregation were involved in creating and passing civil rights legislation in Colorado. We're founding members of the Congress for Racial Equity in Colorado. We have members of both white and people of color, and some of them are still with us, who would go out and test real estate developers to make sure that they were following fair housing laws. We have people who were members of the National Board of Trustees when the Black Caucus of Unitarian Universalists demanded funding and equal representation at the Denominational General Assembly in 1968. We once bought mountain property in an attempt to have a summer camp for black city kids, and later gave that property to a black-led group to carry on the work when we learned it was way beyond what we could manage. More recently, Black Lives Matter 5280, the local Denver chapter of the national movement, was literally born at a community meeting in our basement after Michael Brown was murdered in Ferguson, Missouri. The organization Soul to Soul Sisters, a $1 million nonprofit serving black women, was born after we invited Reverend Dr. Dawn Riley Duvall and Reverend Dr. Tawana Davis to preach at one of our Standing on the Side of Love services at the Colorado State Capitol. In sermons from this pulpit, we have many times remembered Dr. Martin Luther King, and not just the whitewashed version, but the radical revolutionary visions of his life and work. We have delved into the theology of Howard Thurman and how the black church in America transformed the oppressive Jesus of white Christianity into a powerful symbol of spiritual and political liberation. We have considered the untold history of American wealth, the kind never taught in my high school, how slavery was not a peripheral piece of American history, but central to that history, and how slaves and slavery were the single most primary and wealth-generating industry for well over 100 years in the colonies and beyond, both in terms of stolen labor and in terms of human beings bought, sold, and traded as living commodities. We have acknowledged how the wealth that was thus generated was the same wealth, like literally the same wealth that built the factories, that built the universities, that laid the railroads, that funded the banks and the financial institutions, bought the land, bought the legislation, and later the war machine that would come to dominate first this continent and later the world. None of that would have happened without the stolen lives and stolen labor of human beings from the African continent and their descendants. We have numerous times called attention to the basic facts of American life. Black men in America are 13 times more likely to be incarcerated than white men, despite clear evidence that crime is about equal between black and white people. Black Americans are 4 times more likely to be shot by police. The infant mortality rate, this is unforgivable, the infant mortality rate for black Americans is 3 times the rate it is for white Americans. The average wealth of a white household in America is 15 times. 15 times the average wealth of a black household in America. We have studied here how inequality is baked into the way that schools are funded, the way poverty is stigmatized, the way all manner of opportunities are racially selective, on and on. We have heard From this pulpit, Reverend Tawana Davis preached about spiritual empowerment to do the hard work of dismantling white supremacy. We have learned together the brilliant work of Dr. Joy DeGroy-Leary on post-traumatic slave syndrome. We've explored the brilliant work of Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw on intersectionality. We've studied Michelle Alexander's exhaustive research on mass incarceration and the new Jim Crow. We've learned about how the justice system in America is really an injustice system, especially if you're not white, as poignantly detailed by Brian Stevenson and many others. We have here celebrated black music, scholarship, and culture, rightfully marveling that a people so profoundly oppressed for so long in so many ways would be the source of such astonishing artistry, creativity, civility, dignity, and heroism. Amen? We made a commitment that every Sunday service would have at least one voice from a traditionally marginalized community, a reading, a poem, a quote, something, every single Sunday. In this very pulpit, where I'm standing right now, has stood Dr. Vincent Harding, Reverend Gil Caldwell, Debbie Irving, Hashira Asamu, Dominique Christina, Slam Nuba, Norba Johnson, Theo Wilson, Reverend Dawn Riley Duvall, Reverend Dr. Tawana Davis, Hassan Latif, Arthur McFarlane, and many others. I could go on and on. We were part of a group in the city that was sealing the records of people who have been arrested but not convicted of any crime, so they don't have to report that arrest on their job applications. Much of the recent work on racial justice here has come from our Racial Justice Project, which you have voted on and funded for the past 6 years, faithfully led by Julie Myers, who is here, and Peggy Ulrich Nims, who is also here somewhere. Where's Peggy? Back there. For about 3 years, and now co-chaired by Steve Brainerd and Patrick Horton. We have, over time, over the last 6 years or so, we have hired wonderful and soulful consultants to work with us, to help us understand racial justice and white supremacy better. We've held forums and workshops. We have brought in special guest speakers. We studied W.E. Du Bois several times, hosting his grandson, Arthur McFarlane, to lead us in discussions. We've read at least a dozen books together as a congregation. Some of those books, at least to me, were absolutely revelatory. The Half Never Told, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, Waking Up White, So You Want to Talk About Race, Between the World and Me, Stamped from the Beginning were a few that I thought were just excellent and powerful. 2 years ago, we created a new congregational covenant that includes the words, "We will learn about white supremacy culture in order to create a more equitable congregation." And last year, after 2 years of work and study and education and conversations, we launched a reparations campaign. And you, as a community, gave just short of $250,000. We partnered with the Denver Black Reparations Council and gave that money away in its entirety to be given as grants to black-led organizations serving the black community in Denver. I think it's important to reiterate some of what we processed and learned in having those conversations about reparations. We had to get really clear that this was not about pity or charity or white savior syndrome. This was not holier than thou performative wokeness. This wasn't empty gestures of posting memes on Facebook or Instagram. It wasn't token gestures or the occasional painless donation so we could feel good about ourselves. And especially for white people like me, it wasn't about being in control or centering ourselves in the story. Because if you're a white person in America like I am, you've always been the center of the story. right? Or somebody who looks like you has been the center of the story. During that time, we frequently quoted the great activist Lilla Watson when she said, "If you've come here to help me, you're wasting your time. If you've come here because your liberation is bound up with mine, let us work together." We were clear in that process that no one believes that reparations in any form is a be-all, end-all solution to systemic racism. There's no way to make all that history, all that inequity, all that pain just go away. There is no way to make the social, cultural, economic, institutional systems that perpetuate racism magically transform into models of racial equity. We were clear that the gaping wound of race and systemic racism in America requires systemic solutions, a radical reimagining of social, cultural, economic, institutional life. And while we decided that raising money was a good start, no one believes that reparations is only about money. Reparations, as any mediator or therapist will tell you, is about repairing relationship. Repairing relationship. And that means, the way we talked about it, the way we defined it, that means 1, acknowledging the truth, all of it. 2, making amends, or at least trying to make amends for the past. And 3, building trust for the future. All 3. You, First Unitarian Denver, you have done all this stuff and more because you are a faithful people. You understand that the purpose of a church, this church, is to be a point of resistance to the forces in this world that are trying to tear the human community apart. Amen? Forces seeking to keep us in our silos and in our echo chambers. Forces that are seeking every day to keep us very small and very afraid. We are here together as a community to live our way into better ways of being human. And this is a noble and a worthy cause. You might not be aware of this. Some of you are, I know. But First Unitarian Denver, our congregation, is a national leader on social justice issues. We were the first congregation in the country to do Beyond the Welcoming Congregation curriculum. We were the congregation that started Standing on the Side of Love, holding annual worship services at the Colorado State Capitol building. Eventually, that gathering for a time became the largest gathering of Unitarian Universalists anywhere in the world outside of General Assembly every year. We're the only congregation listed in the official history of marriage equality in Colorado. We were founding members of the Metro Denver Sanctuary Coalition. We were the first congregation within 1,000 miles to offer sanctuary to someone facing deportation, and the first Unitarian Universalist congregation anywhere to offer sanctuary to someone. We're nationally known for our work on immigration justice. As far as I can tell, and I have looked, we are the only congregation in the whole country, anywhere, of any denomination, to have taken reparations seriously enough to have actually had the conversation and raised and given the money with no strings attached. That's you I'm talking about. So that's the story I have to tell you. It's your story. Your story. And I'm sticking with it. Now here's the question. specifically on the issue of racial justice. What should we do next? What should we do next? What's our goal? Is our goal to try and move the needle of racial justice a little bit in the larger community of Denver? Responding to opportunities for advocacy and justice and reparations or service as those opportunities arise? Or is our overall goal to be a more racially integrated congregation? Should we be focusing on questions of, like, as a congregation, should we be focusing on questions of, like, genuine inclusion? Examining our internal culture and habits that are probably invisible to us, but which represent real barriers to people of color to feel welcome and included here. Those two goals are clearly related, but have very different emphases. Let me rephrase the question. How are we, as a mostly white, Unitarian, Universalist, urban congregation here at 14th and Lafayette in the middle of Metro Denver, how are we called to respond to systemic racism? I mean, like right here, right now. In January of 2024, given the state of the city and the world and politics as we currently understand it. Let me rephrase the question again. There are many areas we might apply ourselves. Many. Education. Opportunities for education, from preschool right up through university. How about the justice system? Or from police reform to mass incarceration to the courts, right up through the reintegration of people formerly incarcerated. That's a worthy issue. How about addressing the food deserts that exist here in Denver? How about access to health care or economic opportunities? Do any of these specific issues or opportunities speak to this community more than others? Let me rephrase the question again. First Unitarian has traditionally identified 5 categories of justice work here on any particular issue, and those are advocacy, like the lunch event happening today after the service to learn about and support legislation for women's rights and against fracking. Education, like the many workshops and book reads and sermons and other consciousness-raising events we have done. Direct service, like we do with the Women's Homeless Initiative or Family Promise or the Interfaith Prayer for Gaza service that we held last night, or the Climate Grief Workshop we're holding next week. Sharing resources, like we do with our Giving in Action program, our long-standing support of Metro Caring, our reparations project, or collaboration in the larger community, like we did with the Metro Denver Sanctuary Coalition and many, many other organizations. Advocacy, education, direct service, sharing resources, collaboration. Do any of those categories feel particularly relevant right now, or well-timed, or are we particularly called or particularly well-suited to do work in one of those areas? Or are we just tired and stressed enough from living in this fractured world to recognize that we will do our best work in the long term by just taking a break in the short term? Kind of let our racial justice field just lie fallow for a season or two while we discern? I know these are really hard questions. I know that. That's why I'm asking them. And I know you don't have all the answers today. Our racial justice team and myself have been pondering this for quite a while, and we don't have the answers. I'm in touch with congregations and colleagues all across the country, and they don't have the answers. I had a conversation with Reverend AJ last week, and even he doesn't know the answers. That's okay. It's okay. There's a few things I do know. I know that the best answer or answers or even partial answers will evolve out of honest conversations and soulful, prayerful discernment among this faith community and with our accountability partners. In other words, the best answer will emerge from our collective wisdom. Won't just come from me or AJ or anyone else. I know that this church has been a leader and an innovator, and I know we're going to continue to be leaders and innovators. Amen? Because that's who we are. And I know from years of experience of doing this ministry with you, I know that when clarity emerges, and it will, I know we will respond. I know that leaders will step up and funding will materialize and groups will be empowered to act and speak and organize and collaborate. And I know that whatever form it takes, it will be because we understand as a faithful community that our liberation is tied up with everyone else's. And none of us are free until everyone is free. Amen.
We shall not give up the fight. We have only started. We have only started. We have only started. We shall not give up the fight. We have only started. We have only started. We have only started. Together we'll have victory. Hand holding hand. Hand holding hand. Hand holding hand. Together we'll have victory. Hand holding hand. Hand holding hand. Hand holding hand. Never ever put to fight. We're bound to win. We're bound to win. We are bound to win. Never ever put to fight. We're Please join us, stand as you're willing and able, and join us in our closing affirmation.
You know, in a round world, what goes around comes around. Circles and cycles of stars, seasons of growth and decay, birth and death, and unexpected resurrection. You and I and we are inextricably connected to all that was and is and ever will be. Amen. Our service is ended.